All right, guys, here we are with Ron Healy from Tuxedo Ideal, and we are going to talk about paint booths. Basically, all the ideal paint booths, and a little bit also about how the airflow works in all the paint booths. So, Ron, take it away.
Sure. So we Tuxedo or Ideal, I should say, has three different paint booths. We've got our crossflow that you see there on the screen, and then the other two that we're going to get to are the semi downdraft and the side downdraft. Now this one here is
Mhm.
our crossflow paint booth, and it's our most economical paint booth too. It's probably about $3,000 or $4,000 less than the semi down and the side down. But one thing you want to keep in mind about this economy booth is that the inside dimension is only 22 and a half foot long, which isn't all that big when it comes to a paint booth. But we do have length extensions that we sell for the booth, and they come in 30-inch increments. So if they get two of the kits, they can increase it by another 5 feet and make it 27 foot, which would be ideal. Ideal. So uh, the thing about our paint booth program that we have is we're very different from the rest of the other guys. Whereas what you see there listed with the paint booth all comes standard. It comes powder coated. It comes with the deluxe control panel. It comes with the LDPI lights, GE bulbs, a Dayton fan and motor that we get from Granger, and also air filtration filters. All of these are top of the line brand names in the paint booth world. So it's something that you can really kind of hang your hat on when you're talking to the customer about the paint booths. With the other paint booth companies, Garmat, Global, Colmet, Keiko, they all offer a paint booth that seems really cheap, but it doesn't come with what you see in the picture on ours. It doesn't come powder coated. You pay extra, which you pay extra for. That normally runs about $2,400 to powder coat a booth. The control panel is always sold separately. They call that an electrical package that we come standard with our booth. They charge $2,200 for that as well. So there's big differences when we're comparing apples to apples. They might have a cheaper price, but they're not going to get what we offer in our paint booths. So when you break it down and add those items, they're much, much more expensive too. So that's kind of like the program that we're running, where we're trying to push the idea that the customer isn't getting hit with additional prices when it comes to making the quote. It's a good selling feature of ours when we sell the paint booths. So this, like I was saying, this one here is our smaller one. It's less expensive. It's very popular. I've sold a few of them recently, and it's gotten very, very popular. I think it's because of the price point, to be quite honest with you. So the crossflow booth and also the other booths, I'm changing gears here a little bit, where the difference between them is the airflow and how the air goes through the booth. With a crossflow, you see you've got the doors there, and those are filters right there. Those are intake filters. That's where the air goes in, and then it goes straight through the paint booth to a filter plenum that's in the back wall, and then it goes straight up and out the booth. So that's why they call that a crossflow booth. So it's basically going front to back or back to front, however you want to describe the booth. It's a tilt panel design, which is another selling feature that we say it gives just a better lighting in the paint booth. It's getting the lights closer to the vehicle when they're painting, and that's pretty much it on the crossflow booth. We also offer an extra man door. You scroll down a little bit, Juan. We've got accessories for these booths that we try to upsell. We have the duct kit, and on this particular model, we have an extra personnel door. It does come with one, but if they want one on both sides, or one in the front, one in the back, we offer those too. One thing I point out too when we're selling the paint booths is when we ship the paint booth, we automatically drop ship the fan from Granger. So if they call and say that they haven't received their fan with their booth, that's because it's just coming from a different warehouse. So you see here, these are the length extensions for the CrossFlow. The top one, that kit comes with 2 lights, light fixtures and bulbs. So you have a 30-inch extension that comes with 2 light fixtures and bulbs. And the one underneath it is a solid panel 30-inch extension. And then at the bottom there, you see that's that extra personnel door that comes with a window also. So there's good upselling features. When we get to the end, when we talk about our mixing room, that's another thing that you might want to upsell to with any of the paint booths, is we have an 8-foot by 10-foot mixing room that a lot of people use with paint booths. That's a that's a $5,000 sale. It's a nice upsell if you can get it. Then if you scroll down a little more, we offer a duct kit for the paint booth. It's just an 8-foot kit. It's pretty standard, and if somebody is talking about maybe they have something custom that they need done, we don't even mess with it. We just ask them to have their local contractor do it. HVAC company especially would be able to do it. And that's it on CrossFlows. I can take any questions if you got them.
Yeah, I got a question. I saw many items like this. I'm just not sure if I really seen one to know the difference. When you say items powder coated, what exactly is the difference?
It's painted. It's painted white. And that's the procedure on how they paint it. It's powder coated paint rather than spray on. Powder coating is an actual powder that goes on the steel, and then it goes through an oven and it bakes the paint on. It's just a better finish.
So I imagine it's for more durability.
Oh yeah, most definitely. And you know the reason why ours are powder coated is because the booth itself comes from China, and by powder coating it, you're protecting it so it won't rust on the in the container. So it's kind of a win-win for us to offer it like that. I don't tell the customers that though.
So if it doesn't come powder coated, Raj, it would be something called galvanized, right?
Correct, galvanized steel.
Galvanized.
That's what the competition offers when it's not powder coated.
So let me see if I can find a picture of a galvanized. It's just basically it looks like steel.
Kind of like the same with the
like a
rotisserie.
bare steel or something like that.
Yeah, like this.
Yeah.
So whenever, for example, the RGI booth that we also carry, all of them come galvanized. You have to pay extra to be powder coated, right? This already comes powder coated, so it's a much better sale, easier sale. So whenever somebody says, oh, it's something about the booth, you say, yeah, but it's powder coated. You don't have to pay extra for it, as opposed to other booths that you do have to pay extra.
This is a more all-inclusive booth. Huh?
Yep.
Is it also easier to clean with the overspray, or does that not make a difference?
It does. It's a smoother surface, so it probably would be cleaner, easier to clean. The steel is a little porous. Was that Ed talking?
Yes, sir, Ron. How are you today?
Good, Ed. Hey, so Ed and I have sold a few paint booths together, and what I've offered is if you get a customer that's interested in one and they're asking a bunch of questions that you're not comfortable answering, just shoot me an email and I'll call a customer on your behalf. Have a good conversation with them and then follow up with you afterwards. That's another big thing about our paint booth program is, I'll come right out and sell them for you. You just
so quick question, so we could do, Ron,
yeah.
If I have definitely a client, I could do a 3-way call with you with the client and we can forward that out, right?
Definitely. Yeah.
Awesome.
I recommend it.
Great.
There's pertinent questions that you have to ask. We offer the paint booths in single phase or 3-phase electric. You'd have to know that right up front because it affects the price. And then of course, if they can unload it when the carrier gets there, I leave it up to them as far as asking questions on permitting and fire suppression. And the only reason being is that everybody's rules and codes and laws are different from state to state, and us county to county inside the state, they're different. So you're kind of opening up a can of worms if you ask them, do you know if you have to pull permits? Or because the way I look at it, I'm a natural born salesman. you're muddying it up a little bit if you try to get too technical with them.
I agree with that. I totally agree with that. And I think it's best. For example, my father does that because he has a whole team ready in New York, right? So in New York, for example, and Dan, this is a little more for you. In New York, for example, we have a mechanical installer for the booth. We have an
Nice.
electrical installer for the electrical part of the booth. We have somebody that does the permits. We have somebody that does fire suppression, and we have somebody that does a duct work. So that's 5 things apart from actually the booth that you need in order to have the booth ready to work, right?
Yep.
So of course, us selling over the internet, it becomes a complete headache if we're taking care of that, or if we ask them, hey, who's going to be installing the booth for you? Who's going to be doing the electrical work, right? Like I said, my father does that because he has the whole team ready. But outside of New York, it'll be very difficult for us to do anything, especially with the permits,
Right.
you know, and like the permits is pretty much the hardest part, I think. Everything else we could find somebody, but it's still a lot of work in order for us to find somebody that knows what they're doing when it comes to installing a paint booth, which is
Yep.
very hard to do.
I do have a directory of fire suppression companies. So if you need, if a customer does ask you about that, what I normally do is I'll email them a list of 3 or 4 contacts in their area that do fire suppression, and they're familiar with the codes and all that. And I just leave that all entirely up to them to take care of it.
And fire suppression, just so you guys know, is basically the sprinkler system inside of the booth that will put out any fires in case there is something, because you're dealing with paint, right?
Yep.
So it's flammable stuff.
A lot of times it's chemical that they put
Or
it out
chemical.
with.
Yep.
Yeah, rather than water.
Any questions about paint booth, guys, or at least the cross flow?
Can you talk a little bit more about the filters?
Yeah. This particular paint booth only uses two filters, 2 different filters. One is an intake filter that you see in the door there. They're 20 inch by 20 inch. And then an exhaust filter, you know, so the air comes in through a filter and goes out through a filter. The exhaust filter's on that far wall right before it exits the paint booth. And that's just like a fiberglass media. It's not real thick. It's the intake filter that's really the thickest because they want clean air coming in the booth. No particles or anything like that. And then when they spray and exhaust, that the fiberglass material catches the rest of the spray. But we carry the filters. You know, if you've got, they're going to find them much cheaper somewhere else. And I hate to say that, but it's true. Because there's companies out there that's all they do is sell paint booth filters. And their pricing is much more favorable than ours is. But we do stock them because we stock the paint booths and we add the filters before we ship them. So we've got a pretty heavy inventory of filters.
Yep. Yep. I mean, we'll try to see if we can work with the filters in the future, but for now, as of right now, it's a little hard to find filters. A company that does good filters. Usually, people just find it locally, right?
Right. That too. Yep. There's a couple of websites actually too. That one guy's got every paint booth, every filter for every paint booth. Gotcha. I don't know how he does it.
Yeah. All right. So guys, so just to recap on this cross flow, right? Obviously, for whoever doesn't know, basically the paint booth is used in order for you to paint the car inside. So as you're painting, these doors stay closed, and the air flows through here, through the front, all the way to the back, to the plenum here in the back, and the fan is here so it can suck out the air. The reason it does that is because as you're painting, you don't want any of that overspray to fall in different parts of the car. So that's why the booth in itself, it's a clean space that you need to have in order to do paint, because if one piece of dust particle gets into the paint job of the car, it will ruin the whole paint job. So that's why it has to be a clean space, closed, and has to have a good airflow. And in this case, the cross flow, as the name says, goes from the front all the way to the back, which is right here, and through the plenum in the back, and goes out like that. And here it would connect to the duct kit, which is this. And this duct kit connects to the ceiling and to the outside. already through, and of course, as with the filters, it's already clean air as it goes outside. So I got it pretty much right, Ron?
That's exactly right.
Yep. This cross flow, you cannot put a heating system, right?
Well, we have an electric heating system that you can
Okay.
use for it because it doesn't have to be pressurized. So yes, our electric heater will work on that particular booth.
Okay, gotcha. So for
All
this
the
booth,
booths, I should say.
okay, so for this particular booth, you cannot have a gas heater, but you can have an electrical heater, right?
Yes.
A gas heater is definitely, I guess, a little better, right?
Yeah, definitely better. Much more expensive, about $10,000 more.
Mhm. And just so you guys see the difference in price points for that cross flow, for example, right here, the cross flow starts at 10,799 without any extra accessories, without shipping, and compared to the semi downdraft, which we're gonna take a look at, is $15,000.
What's the warranty like for that, Ron?
1 year on all the parts. So we cover, and there's a lot of parts to it. There's limit switches on the front and front doors, and also the personnel door. There's an air solenoid that's a shutoff valve basically for the air guns that comes with it, and of course, the lights, not the bulbs, of course, but the control panel too is covered for a year,
Okay.
and the Granger fan too, the Dayton fan and motor. Granger's really good about warranty. We had a few of them, and all they do is just ship out a new one. They don't even want the old fan back.
That's good.
That makes it easy for us.
Thank you,
Alright.
Ron.
Any other questions about
So-
the cross? Okay, go ahead.
What type of cars? I know there's a difference between the economic one and the semi. So what type of cars are used in this one?
I think
Like smaller ones or?
It's really it comes down to a price point stuff. So for example, a cross flow is the starting price. Most people obviously don't want to spend that much money on it, and it comes down to the quality of the paint job that you're doing with each paint booth, right? So obviously the cross flow, because it's shooting out air from the front to the back. Let's say the car, you're seeing the cursor, right? Let's say this is the car,
Mhm.
right? And let's say you're painting in the front, and there may be some overspray of the extra paint that you're using with the nozzle, with the paint gun, that may fall in the back of the car. So it may not leave as good of a paint job as you would with a different type of booth that has a different airflow, which we'll show you in a second. And also, the type of heating system that this has, it will not leave a good paint job as opposed to somebody that has like a really strong paint job. It's kind of like what Ron was saying when it comes to the powder coated. They powder coat this booth and they heat it up so it leaves a better finish. It's the same thing, and of course, this is a paint booth. This is not a car, right? So with better equipment, with better airflow, and with better heating system, the paint job for the car will come. It will be very, very impressive. And as you guys have seen, there's crazy paint jobs out there for cars that they pay extra, like they pay an arm and a leg for these paint jobs. So obviously, the better equipment that you have, the better paint job. And this cross flow is basically the economic booth that the most economic booth that you could find. And the inside dimensions here, to answer your question a little further, stuff, it's 22 feet, right? Which is a very, very small booth. And as Ron said, the minimum that you want a booth to be is 27 feet. So at 22 feet, you're only fitting very, very small cars. So this goes to us, to the sales guys, basically. If somebody wants this booth, right? And you got to ask them, hey, what kind of cars are you doing? If they're doing an F-150, it's not going to fit. Or an F-250 is not going to fit, right? It may fit, but it's going to be extremely tight. And let's say it'll fit, go here, and the painter will not be able to paint the front comfortably. So you got to be careful with that. So at 22
small
feet,
sedan.
I'm sorry?
I was just saying that it would have to be like small sedans.
Very, very small sedans, yeah, or maybe parts. Sometimes they take the car apart and they just paint the fender.
Right, the frames. And stuff,
Yeah, or just the frame. Yeah, not the frame, but the fender or the doors or something like
Right,
that.
right.
And that's it, and they put it back. But yeah, but like of course this one is if the space is limited for inside the shop.
You know, I've also sold this paint booth for motorcycle shops, furniture refinishing shops. It doesn't have to be just cars, you know, because when you're painting with a gun, especially, having a booth like this is a pretty popular booth actually. I've had customers that are just doing fenders and hoods and things like that. So this is a perfect size for them, even because of it being small. But
Yep.
the only kind of vehicle really that I don't think you could do in this thing is a truck. You could do a passenger car in these booths the way they are.
Hmm. Yeah, but like an F-150, right?
Nope.
Yep. So again, guys, this goes back to being a consultant instead of a salesperson, right? And you gotta ask the client, hey, are you getting any F-150s? Yes. Then okay. So then let's add the 30-inch extension, or let's add two 30-inch extensions so it could be 27 feet, so you can do it properly, right?
What's the
Any
price on those extensions? You have
uh,
those on the site?
Ron? Yeah, we have those on the site.
Yeah.
Ron, what's the price on the extensions?
Oh. It is one is $1,200. That's the one that comes with the lights, and the other is about $800. That doesn't come with the lights, and that's MAP. So that's retail.
Okay.
Gotcha.
There you go.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions about the crossflow, guys? Nope.
Popular booth.
Yeah,
Had
very,
three
very
gone in
because
the
of
last 4 days.
yeah, because of price point for the
Yep.
most part. All right, let's continue down to we looked at the accessories here. We looked at the duct kit, the side downdraft.
Didn't Roger just sell a booth?
Raj?
Didn't you sell a crossflow?
I mean, basically one did.
he put it up and I he did a layup and I just dunked it. You know.
All right. Yeah, it shipped out today.
There you go. Yeah, very
That's
nice
good.
guy.
Well, I
we
guess
have here-
speaking of shipping, like how does that work with the shipping? Since it's like, I guess somebody has to go in and like, you know, install piece by piece, right? So how much does it weigh?
It, you know, of course, depending on which booth, the crossflow booth, when we're just looking at it, that's something we probably should have talked about was installation too. The crossflow booth weighs 3,800 pounds. It only comes in 3 crates. And 2 of the crates are long, about 10 foot long and rectangular. And that's what has all the panels in it and the doors. And then we have a big square wooden crate that we build here that we put all the lights and filters in.
Gotcha.
So you've got the 3 pieces. But if customers ask you about installation, I have a few that I can refer, but I also mentioned to them that it's very expensive if you go through a professional paint booth installer. Just say this semi-down draft right here in front of us, the people are getting about $6,000 to put those up. And that's the professional paint booth installers. So I mentioned that to them so they don't get scared away. But I also tell them all the panels are numbered. They come with very good instructions. Most of our customers do put them up themselves or have a general contractor hired help do it. You know, it's just nuts and bolts and keeping it square and then hanging the doors at the end.
Right.
They'll save a fortune if they do it not the traditional way. Because of the price point of the booth, they're not going to want to spend half the price of the booth on installation. But those big guys do it. You know, Garmat and Global.
Draft.
They
So, for
charge an arm and a
example,
leg for installation.
Like Dan, for example, right? So you're going to be working a little closely with my father. The AccuDraft booth that we have in New York, like we charge about $8,000 for installation, another $8,000 for electrical. Fire suppression costs what? I don't know, like $10,000. The duct kit costs another $10,000. So right there, you have $36,000 in stuff outside of the booth. Yeah, labor and yeah. And you got also the permits, which in New York could be an extra $20,000. So right there, you got anywhere from $55,000 to $60,000 in labor outside of the spray booth. You know, so obviously for these booths, that's why Ron was saying, hey, don't mention installation.
talk
Don't
about it that
mention
much.
that.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
don't even, like as for example, a lift is easy. A
Yep.
paint booth, there's a lot of moving parts, so you want to advise the client as much as possible. But at the end of the day, like Ron said, like if you're buying these booths, in the price point that it is, it's better for the client to install it. And if they need help with it, we could try to see what help we can use. But as far as installation outside of New York, it's pretty difficult.
And I do know quite a few installers around the country, and some of these paint booth installers actually travel around the country to put them up. That's another reason why the pricing is so high.
Yeah, it's not easy. It's not an easy thing to do.
But I think that if they're buying a paint booth, it's because they have an idea of how much it's gonna cost to
No,
install
they
it.
don't. No, they
No?
don't.
That last
So
client
what
that
you
we're
can
talking about, when he answered the phone call, the first thing he said, he's like, "Listen, man, I've been in the business for 40-something years." So like, he already knew, basically, had a rough idea of what.
Well, yeah, like some people do, Raj, but some people have no idea how much it costs. Some
Oh
people
yeah, they
just think
freak
it's
out when
like,
they hear it's that much.
yeah, like they're like, all right, I'm like, I only want to spend $10,000 on a booth. Whenever I hear that, I'm just like, oh man.
Yeah, he wants it with heat installed.
Yeah, like they're like, you have no idea what you're getting yourself into. Once they start, and then they ask me, hey, how much is installation? I'll tell them how much it's going for. Then they're like, oh no, you don't know what you're talking about. I'm like, all right, perfect. Go do your research. I've been doing this enough for long enough that I know what the market charges for something like this. And, they usually come back as like, oh, you were right.
okay.
But yeah, like especially my father in New York has come across a lot of people that have no idea what they're talking about. Cause some people will just sell the booth by itself. My father sells the whole package. So of course the price point is much higher.
Oh yeah.
So, yep. So this is the semi-downdraft.
Yep. So with the semi-downdraft, just like on the crossflow booth, it comes powder coated, comes with the electrical package, the filters, the lights, the bulbs, the fans, all for the same price. And if you see on the top there, that structure that's sitting on top of the paint booth, that's the canopy plenum, and we sell that separately. Really, you only need that if you're going to be using a gas-fired heater in the paint booth. What it does is by adding that cap, basically, you're pressurizing the booth. The only air that can flow through it is forced air, and then exhausted out too. Unlike the crossflow, where you have those filters going through the doors, these are glass windows on these doors, and the filters are up on the roof, and that structure you see there covers those filters. So that way, when you do use a heater, you're going to ductwork into that box there that you see. It's basically a heating box or a chamber. So semi-downdraft in the drawing, where those 4 arrows are, that's where the filters are in the ceiling. The air's coming in through the ceiling and then going front to back like the crossflow, where it goes back to the rear and there's a plenum back there and then exhausts straight up out of that plenum.
Excuse my ignorance, Ron. What's a plenum?
It's like a wall, a filter wall.
Okay.
It's 16. It's 4x4 basically, 4x4, 20x20 squares.
Gotcha.
And it's all filtered, and that's what the industry calls it. That's so the top part is called a plenum also because it's kind of deflecting the air.
Got it.
And so the semi-down is bigger. It's 26 foot long inside, and it's 14 foot wide on the inside as well. That crossflow was only 13 foot wide. Besides that, 22.5 foot. It only uses one fan. It's a 30-inch fan. You have to determine if they have 3-phase or single-phase electric. A lot of customers will ask if our lights we can get the lights LED. We don't. The only reason being is that they're very expensive, and that's not our business model as far as this paint booth goes. If we put LED lights in that paint booth, the price is going to jump up about $2,000 and knock us out of the park as far as being competitive. So we just offer the standard fluorescent, the T8, the skinny bulbs. There's 4 bulbs per fixture. So that's the semi-down. You know, if customers ask you what's the difference between the semi-down and the next one, which is a side down, it is just the airflow. It's just, you'll notice it's almost the same exact paint booth. We
So-
do sell accessories for the semi-down. We've got a 4-foot length extension kit to make it 30-foot long overall. A lot of people will ask for a 30-footer if they have longer bed trucks. And we also sell an extra personnel door as an option. The booth comes with one, so that's a second door that would be added if they wanted. And then we've got the bigger duct kit. Since it's a 30-inch fan, we've got a 31-inch duct kit, just like the one for the crossflow.
Ron, I got a question.
Yep.
Can you rewind yourself when you were talking about the electrical?
Yeah.
You said it was 1-phase, 3-phase.
Right.
Okay. Within 3-phase, does it come with a 3-prong or a 4-prong? Or
As
just
far as
4-prong on
plugs?
3? Yeah, as far as plugs.
Well, it
Because
doesn't come with plugs. It's hardwired right out of the circuit breaker box.
Oh, okay. Okay. Cool.
Now, what single phase and 3-phase is like in your home, you have single phase. It's what type of power you have coming off the pole into your circuit breaker box in your home or in your building. A lot of industrial places will have 3-phase, and those are used like on welders and compressors, heavy duty machinery. And so a lot of shops will have 3-phase, which for some reason costs less than single phase. So that's why they offer them both, and the single phase is always more expensive.
Hey, Ron, can you clear up a doubt that I have about the heating unit along with the single phase and the 3-phase? If once you
All right.
mentioned about.
Yep. As far as using one and the other?
Right.
Yep. If you've got a customer that wants one of these booths here, this is the semi-down, and also a heater. If they have 3-phase, that's great. They're going to get a 3-phase heater and a 3-phase paint booth. But if they have a single-phase service in their building, they have to get a 3-phase paint booth and a single-phase heater. Reason being is, if you have single-phase at your building, the power going into the heater is single-phase, so the heater has to be single-phase. But because they're operating VFDs, which are variable frequency drive, which is like a dimmer switch, because that heater has a VFD on it, it converts the power to 3-phase. So that's why you have to get a 3-phase booth with a single-phase heater. I learned this the hard way when I sold a Bonanza heater to a customer, and had to get it explained to me because I sent a single-phase booth and a single-phase heater on one of my first sales that I made on these. So it's always the same thing with 3-phase. The heater's 3, the paint booth's 3-phase. But if they have single-phase service in their building, then you go with the single-phase heater and the 3-phase paint booth.
I did not know that.
Mhm.
Okay, good to know.
You understand, Ed?
Yes, sir, I do now.
Okay, cool.
One other quick question. You
Yep.
mentioned pressurized. So in
Yes.
other words, the only way that these booths are pressurized is through the plenum kit.
Right. Yeah, because
Okay.
if that plenum kit wasn't there, there would just be filters there, which is just like the crossflow. It just air can come in.
Okay, so there's nothing specific about the panels themselves or the setup themselves that make this pressurized. It's
Well-
just the way that it's set up with the plenum.
So think about it this way, that plenum canopy that you see sitting on top of the booth, that's completely enclosed, and it's covering all of the top ceiling filters. So if you didn't have a heater and you turned on the exhaust fans, it would suck the walls in on the paint booth because it's pressurized. There's nothing coming into it. All you have is the exhaust fan. But if you add the heater, then you're blowing air in. So and that's another thing, getting too technical, but you have to balance the incoming blown air and the outgoing exhausted blown air. That's something that installers do, and it's kind of technical, but that's why they call it a pressurized booth, because air can't get in any other way other than through the heater. And if you
Got
don't
it.
have a heater, like I said, they turn the fan on, it's just going to suck the walls in.
So in order for you to have heat, it has to be a pressurized heat.
Yes,
Booth. Okay.
right. A gas heater. Yeah. The electric one doesn't have to be pressurized.
Gotcha.
That's why it can work with the cross flow.
That makes sense. Okay. And also, guys, this is a single skin booth.
Yeah.
Right. As opposed to a double skin, which double skin has one sheet of metal, as you see here. It has insulation in between that sheet of metal, and then there's another sheet of metal that's covering it. That's why it's called double skin.
It's just a steel panel, 18 gauge.
That access door, can that be put on any corner?
Yes. Front or back, any corner.
And the booth doesn't come with any access door except for the one in the front, right?
No, that door, when you assemble the booth, you can put that door wherever you want.
No. Meaning, like, if you don't get this accessory or this optional door, there's no other doors besides the front door.
Oh no, it comes with one door. That's a second door that we sell as an accessory.
Okay, gotcha.
And that door, that personnel door, has a shutoff switch. Can you elaborate a little bit more on that? Because I've heard that in the industry there are like different shutoff switches that causes friction, or I just asking, maybe
Yeah,
you can clear that up for me.
no problem. We get from Granger limit switches, and they put them on right over the top of the door. So when you open the door, it kills the electric or the exhaust in the paint booth. So that way, if you open the door and they're running that exhaust fan and painting, it's going to suck in all that bad air from outside in the shop. So if you open that door by mistake while everything's running, it'll kill everything. It'll shut everything down, basically. And even the extra personnel door that we sell will come with a limit switch too.
Guys, do you guys understand what he means when he says clean space? Anyone? Basically, what that means is that since the booth is enclosed, there's no dust particles inside, right? So, for example, another way to sell the heating system is if once they're done painting the car inside, right, in the clean space, they have to wait, what, Ron, 3-4 hours for the paint to dry, right? So, and they have to leave it inside the clean space. So if they're leaving there for 3 to 4 hours and they have 3 or 4 cars, that means they're taking longer to paint the cars, and therefore obviously less revenue for their shop. Now with the heating system, they'll be able to dry in about half an hour instead of 3 hours.
Gotcha.
So then if you try to sell the heating system, then or if they want to actually no, excuse me, if they want to get more cars through the shop, it's better to have the heating system. That way they can make more revenue. In the front end, it'll be a bigger investment, but in the long run, they're gonna make more money because there's more and more cars coming in and out of the shop.
So this is that kit right there you're talking about. That's the heating kit.
Which one?
No, this is the pressurized one. Okay.
Yeah, this is just the extension, the 48-inch extension kit, and this is the side, the personal side door, and this is the duct kit. The duct kit, like I said, it connects to the plenum, or I'm sorry, to where the air could escape from the shop, from the booth to the outside of the shop.
So as far as that heating system, how much is that more? How much more is it?
It's more than the paint booth. A 3-phase heater is $15,300.
Wow.
And also, I want to touch on this. I probably should have said it earlier. One of the other things that sets us apart from all the other paint booth companies, we have everything in stock. Someone wants a paint booth from the people that make them, it's about 8 weeks to ship normally. And we've got them going out, like Roger sold one yesterday, we had to ship today. Same with the heaters too. There's a very popular brand out there called Bonanza, and that everybody knows and trusts, and they're good, but they take 8 to 10 weeks to ship a heater out. And when people are ready to buy a paint booth, they want it right then and there because they've been through the financing and the hiring all the GCs and getting everybody involved with the project. They want to be able to say, I want that booth shipped now. So it's a huge selling feature for us.
Cool.
Well, okay. So anybody has any questions about the semi downdraft?
I do
Okay,
have
so
one. Oh, sorry.
Okay.
Ron, in regards to the motor running while you're spraying, is that motor continuously working?
Yes, it is. Whenever it's on, it's continuously working.
So you gotta just go in and spray the hell out of the car and then walk out in order, to be efficient or like energy efficient, right?
Right, exactly.
Okay.
And everything is spark proof. We meet all fire codes for the paint booth too, the national fire codes. I think Juan, we were talking about one this morning, right?
Yep, for North Dakota.
Yeah, I read those codes that just a tiny bit of it pertained to the paint booth, which is good.
And everything else was for the actual shop.
Yeah.
Okay. Gotcha. Now, I guess we move on to the side downdraft.
Yep. So as you can see, the side downdraft looks very similar to that semi-down. The biggest difference there is on the side. You see that square box there, that's basically where the exhaust is. So the air comes in, the entire ceiling is filtered. The semi-down was just the front part. In this booth, the entire ceiling is filtered. The air comes in through the ceiling, and then it goes down the left and right-hand side walls and goes out the bottom of the two walls. So you get a box on both sides of that paint booth. And there's two what we call chimneys that come up out of the center part of that square box, and the fan sits on top of that.
Yeah, let me show you. Let me show you the better. Let me show the other picture that I have, Ron.
Good.
That I showed you too. Because I think this one you can see the airflow a little better. So this is the side downdraft, right? As Ron was saying,
right.
The air comes from the top. The air comes from the top to the side where the box is that you saw right here, and that's where the exhaust is, with basically like a chimney on the side of the booth, and that's where the air escapes from.
And when customers ask for a downdraft, just so you know, a downdraft booth that's a traditional paint booth. It looks just like this without those side panels there, and the air is exhausted through the floor of the paint booth. So that air comes straight through the ceiling and then through the floor also. So it's just coming straight down on the booth like that one. Yep. So our booth, the side downdraft, I tell customers it's the next best thing to a traditional downdraft. And you don't have to dig a hole underneath your paint booth either.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So this being, guys, the full downdraft paint booth. This is the side downdraft, and the only difference in the name is the airflow. That's all it is. And this is the semi downdraft, which we saw the air coming from the front, or from the top, excuse me, all the way to the bottom, to the back of the booth. And this is the cross draft, coming from the front of the booth to the back of the booth.
What's the most popular one, or what's the most common?
The most effective one, I would say, is a full downdraft.
Yes.
Reason being is because
side down.
Yep. Reason being is because in the full downdraft, the air comes from the top, and as you can see, it hugs the car. So as the air is flowing from here, there's a lot less overspray, which can damage the paint job, right? Because it's already being sucked up from the bottom. And like Ron said, in order to have a full downdraft, you need to invest in either an excavation for your floor, which can cost another $15,000 to $20,000, or a basement, therefore lifting the whole booth.
Yes, ma'am. I'm in a meeting right now.
Oh, okay.
Thank you. I'm sorry I forgot to tell you.
Say hello to Amber for me. So yeah, either an excavation or a basement, which will lift the whole booth up, and the basement can also cost another $15,000 to $20,000. So if you add that to the whole to your booth, a full downdraft with the installation, electrical, everything could be an extra $150,000, guys, for a full downdraft paint booth with the heating system, with everything.
Hmm.
So that's basically the biggest difference right now. Ron, correct me if I'm wrong, right? If somebody's looking for a full, for a side, the biggest difference with the side draft and the semi down is that the semi down is because the plenum, or it's the air is living from the back, it's longer, right?
Correct.
And the
And
side down draft is wider.
that's also correct. Yep.
So if
sometimes you're working with space too.
Yep. Yeah, and it's also the space. So in reality, the customer is going to go with the one that fits better in his shop, right? And that's all. If the customer has a very, very big shop, probably go for a side downdraft, because he's not does the extra space that's here is not going to bother him, But if he has a smaller shop, he'll probably go with with the semi downdraft, which is a little longer, because he doesn't have a wide enough booth or wide enough space for the booth. So that's the biggest difference between both, and why a client would choose one over the other.
Yeah.
Always had the doubt whether or not those paint booths had to be bolted down to the floor.
Yes, they do. They don't. I wouldn't say they have to be, but we do provide anchor bolts to bolt them to the floor. Now, so you can see in the description there, that's why, like Juan was saying, we show the inside dimensions, because that's their working space, and also the outside dimension, because that's how much space it's going to take up in the shop. And this one here, that's the side down. It's 17-foot wide. The other one's only 14-foot wide.
Yep. And for anybody that's garage rehab, what does the guy say all the time? He's like, the only thing that you're selling when it comes to your shop or the only thing you can take advantage of is time and the space that you have. So obviously the more space that you could take the more space that you use wisely on the shop, the more equipment you're going to be able to put in there. Therefore, the more money the shop is going to make. And again, time, it's the heating system, right? You'll get cars in and out quicker, therefore making more money, therefore making the shop more revenue.
These would normally be auto body shop purchases, right?
Yep, auto body and collision.
Ron, I had to step away from the training for a bit to take care of a phone call, but I remember you said something about LED lights. So
Yes.
These don't come with LED lights. They do come with standard lights, but would they be able to upgrade in the future if they were to get their own LED lights? Is it a fixture that can easily be adapted or just screwed in, or is this something that it has to stay with those bulbs?
They could definitely try to put in LED fixtures. You'd have to replace the entire fixture. The bulbs are completely different. You have the fluorescent bulbs and the LED light bulb. There's really no LED light bulbs, I shouldn't say. It's almost like a tape. So you'd have to replace the entire fixture, and these are bolted into that steel panel. So if they were to try to retrofit LED fixtures, they could do it, but they're going to do some custom fabrication in order to do it.
Thank you. And I'll be back.
Okay.
All right, guys. Any other questions about cross drafts, semi down, side down?
What I wanted to show you real quick, though, is we've got a couple of different options as far as accessories on the side downdraft goes. We also offer drive-through doors. If a customer wants to have drive-through capability, we have a kit that looks identical to the trifold doors that come with the booth. They just add them in the back of the booth. So they could have trifold doors in the front and back of this booth. Because it's exhausted out the side, you've just got a steel wall there at the header of the booth. So you can offer them drive. And again, like Juan was mentioning, sometimes it's a high volume shop. They want to go in one way and out the other way to go over to to the detailing or something like that. We've sold a couple of drive-through door kits, so it's really all application why they needed that to be drive-through. And this one, of course, still comes with the 4-foot extension or the extra personnel door.
Mm-hmm. That's very interesting. I like that feature.
Yeah. Now with the side down draft, since you have exhaust on both sides, if the customer wants the duct kit, they need to get 2 of them. We've had a mistake in the past where customer just ordered 1 duct kit, got it with his booth. He's like saying he was expecting another one, and we had to ship it out, or we worked out some kind of deal where we had to ship out another kit to the guy. So now you can see we have it listed there, 2 kits required for side downdraft. Just try to keep that in mind.
Gotcha. Because there's 2 chimneys on this, you need to exhaust on both sides, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So the cross flow only needs 1.
Yeah.
The semi downdraft needs 1, and the side downdraft needs 2.
Right.
Okay.
And the cross flow and the side down use the same kit, the 25-inch.
That's what I was going to ask you. Why is it 25 for the cross flow and the side down, and the semis?
The semi down has a 30-inch fan. The other 2 booths use 24-inch fans, but the cross flow uses a 3 horsepower, and the side down uses a 2 horsepower, but they're the same diameter.
Okay. Gotcha.
I think. And then the next page is our mixing room. Another great, our heaters. I take that back. So we've got gas-fired heater. That's the white one on top there. You can use LP or natural, propane or gas. It comes in either single phase or 3-phase. It's vertical, as you can see, and it can sit outdoors. It can sit next to the paint booth. Comes with a control panel. And we stock those gas heaters here in Texas. They're made in the United States. They're ETL listed. Made in California. And then the electric heating system you see there. This is a unit that just sits on top of the paint booth. It recirculates the air. So what it does is it draws air from inside the paint booth back up to the roof through a heater and a blower. And then it goes down the corners, as you can see in PVC, where there's nozzles in those PVC pipes. So that blows the hot air throughout the whole booth at the same time. And it's a lot less. We've sold about a dozen of these so far. The guy has a patent pending on the design. There's no really other electric heaters like this out there that are even similar to it.
And you said you could use this in any booth pretty much, right? Not just the cross flow.
Right. It doesn't have to be pressurized because it recirculates its own air. So it's not going to draw from outside.
You have to send me the pricing for that because I don't think I have it here.
Oh, okay. I will for sure.
Yep. Okay.
Quick question, Ron. Sorry about it. You mentioned that the heater takes the air from inside the booth, right?
Right.
It should have for sure filters to make sure no paint or chemicals going in through the system, right?
Yeah, there's a filter on that intake nozzle that draws the air in.
Cool. And the reason why it takes the air from inside the booth is to maintain, or actually to keep taking warm air, rewarm it, and then inject it back into the booth, correct?
Right. So it costs less because it's already warm.
By the energy. Yeah. Oh, nice. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, this is a very inexpensive item to use too. I've got a nice brochure on it, Juan, that I'll send to you. Where the guy describes it down to the penny on how much money you save compared to a gas-fired heater.
Nice. And how much, for example, this heating system will raise the temperature up to 50 degrees. How much will this raise it to?
That one will go a lot more. It'll go up to about 140 degrees, 160 degrees.
So would it be fair to say, for example, that this one can drive the car in half an hour and this one will take twice as long?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that's fair. But they like the price difference.
I'm sorry?
Which one is more expensive?
This one.
The gas one. The electric one, that gas one is for about $18,000. and the electric one sells for about $8.
Yeah.
And then with the gas one, you don't need the, or you do need the pressurized, the plant.
Right, you'd have to buy the canopy too. Yep.
And then with the electric, you don't.
Right.
Got it.
Interesting. Okay. Have you sold a lot of these?
I have. I sold one yesterday, and it made me go back and look to see. We've only been selling them for 2 years, and we sold a little over a dozen of them, which isn't bad for a big ticket item that we barely advertise.
Yeah, no, for sure. Remind me when I go to, next time I go, we got to make a video of that.
Well, the guy that bought the one yesterday is one town over from us. So I'm hoping once he gets it and gets it installed, I can get some maybe video or pictures as well.
Yeah, for sure. That'd be
He's
great.
just 10 minutes away from here.
Mm-hmm. Right.
That there lists all your differences, how much heat, how much air it moves, as far as the gas-fired heaters go, because that's got a blower in it. And we list on what models you can use those heaters on.
Oh, this was a 10 horsepower. Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Gotcha. The BFDs. All right. Where would the paint? Do we have the? Nope. The mixing room.
Oh, it's not in that book, huh?
Do you wanna? Where do you have it?
Can you go to the website?
Yep. I sure can. Oh no, Ideal. Sorry.
Yep.
You guys gotta fix your website too. There's a
That thing's
couple of
gonna
it.
be gone soon.
Is it?
Yeah, we've got a brand new one that's coming.
Very nice. Yeah, because I noticed there's a lot of broken links.
Yep, that's why they're kind of breaking it down. There you go. So this mixing room here, it's exactly that. It's what they use to mix the paint in that they're going to be spraying. And it's ventilated like a paint booth. It has intake and exhaust. It comes with a control panel and the limit switch, just like a paint booth. It's made by the same company that makes our paint booths. It's 8 foot by 10 foot, so it's basically a standard size. It's the only size we sell it in. We sell a duct kit for it. It's a 12-inch duct kit, since it's only a 12-inch fan that it uses. And it's a good upsell. Some people are required to have mixing rooms because just because of OSHA laws, whatever is going on in their neighborhood. But this particular mixing room, it's got a real decent price. It comes with all those options that you see, just like the paint booth does. And when you're working on a deal with a customer, especially if they're financing too. You mentioned to them, do you need a mixing room too? I've got a real nice one that matches the paint booth. And then if they say yes, yeah, throw that on there. That's another $6,000 item that you can put on the deal.
And the reason you guys need the client should buy a mixing room, even if he doesn't need it by law, is because in this mixing room, like Ron said, you would mix the paint, right? If you didn't have this mixing room, you would have to mix the paint in, I guess for a lack of better words, in dirty space, right? This is a clean area, again, guys, where no dust particles is coming in or anything like that. So you mix the paint here. Now, Ron, this paint mixing room would connect from the inside to the booth?
No, a lot of them do, and that's but ours does not. It's freestanding.
Okay. All right. Is that something that you guys thought about working on?
Honestly,
like adding a door?
I don't believe so. In the future, yeah.
Yeah.
I wish it did connect because that's what people like. That's what they prefer.
Yeah, because like for example, guys, like if this one would connect, this mixing room that would be outside of the paint room would connect to the paint booth, then all you would have to do is just basically open up the door and you're inside another clean area, which is the paint booth, right? So you're mixing the paint here in a clean area, and then all you're doing is just stepping into the paint to the paint booth which is another clean area. And of course, you cannot mix the paint inside of the paint booth because first of all space, and two because the
You
heating
can alter
system.
the paint.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right. So you will keep basically all your paint inside of this room. That way, it's again clean area, safe place, and it doesn't damage the paint.
Yep. Properly ventilated, all that.
Mhm. Yep.
You're right. The mixing room the mixing room along with a paint booth, they're all going to require a it's not an air makeup unit. I'm sorry. Oh, I lost my words here. The fire kit, right?
They probably
Fire
would, yeah. If they
The fire
require
suppression.
fire
Thank you.
suppression, they'll need it for the mixing room too, probably.
Okay, because I get a lot of customers that usually call in regards to, oh, but I saw one that already had the fire suppression included. What are some conversations to have when these come up?
Sure. Um, there's one company out there, Auto Body Tool Mart, that sells a fire suppression system, and I looked into it because I was thinking if we could sell them too. Um, they sell the hardware, the pipes, the nozzles, and the extinguishers and things like that. But when you buy it from them for $6,000, they still have to hire someone to come in and do it, and that's usually a local guy, and he bangs you for the the valves, any type of extra parts he has to put in, if he has to cut any holes or anything. So, like I was saying earlier, we don't sell it only because of all the different codes that are around for every state and every county. I'd be happy to give them references in their area that will do the fire suppression. So we can't sell it, but we can at least steer them in the right direction on where to get it from.
Got it.
It's a lot more expensive if they buy it from Colmet because they're making money on the system itself, and then they have to get a general contractor in there to install it, and then he charges his fee on top of it. It's pretty expensive. It's good just to get it from one place.
Yep. All right, guys. Any questions about the ideal paint booth, the mixing rooms, the accessories, or anything like that? Cricket, cricket, cricket.
Nope.
Cricket.
Everything's been clear.
They'll have questions when they're in the middle of the call. Believe me.
Yeah, like you can never think of questions when you got the master here in front of you. Right? You're like, oh man, I should have asked that question.
I've had to call Ron 3-4 times in a call. Like,
Yep.
what did you just say?
Right.
I mean, yeah, the
You remember
paint.
any?
Like
you
I feel
remember-
like I'm finally understanding everything about paint booths because like it took me a long time to understand paint booth. Like
Yeah.
before, I was just like, what is he talking about? Even like as a question as easy as like what's an AMU?
Right.
Like sometimes just like an AMU, guys, which is right here, AMU, air makeup unit. So it's like there's a lot of moving parts to a paint booth. That's why I'm kind of glad we went over. This is kind of like the basic knowledge when it comes to paint booths, and
Right.
this will give you like a good overall understanding of what a paint booth is. And of course, from here, there's just a whole bunch of other stuff that.
Its own little universe.
Did you guys
And-
already cover basically what are like most of the steps in order to get a paint booth? Like, what are some of the steps that the customer might have to go through?
I went
About the
over it
permits
very,
and
very
stuff?
quickly. But
Okay.
Yeah, the
basically, it's
permits.
like, in order for the booth to be in working condition, in legal legal working condition, because sometimes it's illegal, is of course the mechanical installation, which includes setting up the booth, setting up just the booth in itself. The electrical installation, which includes, of course, anything when it comes to electricity. The fire suppression system, which is the sprinklers inside the booth, which will basically put out any fire. The duct kit work, which is another headache in itself, which you have to basically hire another company to connect where the air goes from here all the way outside. And in some states, for example, like in New York, the the duct kit has to be like 30 feet from the shop. So it's, there's a lot of like moving parts to this, depending on where it is. And fifth, the permits, which is in depending on where you're at, it could be a headache. Like for example, in New York and California, the permits for a paint booth they're extremely hard to get.
Yeah, we can't even sell our paint booths in the 5 boroughs.
Yep, no, we can't. Yep.
Why are they hard to get though? Like, what makes it hard?
EPA
Just
regulations.
EPA regulations, the
EPA
town.
regulations are really strict.
Hmm.
Okay.
Paperwork.
Yeah, the town, for example, may require something, and it's different town through town. Like one town next to each other could be completely different requirements for when it comes to paint booths. And everything every year it just gets harder to get a paint booth.
Yep.
Gotcha.
Buy
But
yours now.
but the key thing is that people need it,
Hello?
right? Yep.
Can you hear me? Okay.
Right?
So foremost, to better guide the client, on it, to make sure that they can have all the permits, ask them first, and have you done your research with your permits in your area?
I think
That
that we did touch on that a little bit.
that one.
And
So
George, if I may answer that one, it's not a good idea to
no.
kind of ask them
Oh,
or kind of scare them into saying, did you get your permits? Did you do this? And did you do that or the other? Because you're going to scare them away from the sale. At that point, it would just be like you're providing the equipment, but they should have enough knowledge to be able to understand that part of the reason that they're getting a paint booth is because they are already having problems with the state or whatever kind of insurance companies are trying to get at them. So I don't know if it's a good idea to just ask them in regards to their permits.
okay,
I think there's more just personal knowledge that I wanted for myself.
I let
okay,
them ask me if they ask me about permitting, if they ask me about fire
Yep.
suppression, and I'll say, well, it's good for you to check with your local building inspector, or it's good to check with your local fire marshal, and then leave it at that.
Yeah.
They don't
Yeah.
let them think that you're going to call all these people for you or for them,
Like
because then
the,
you'll be
yeah,
chasing
like
something instead of making sales.
got
the
it.
only place that would do that is it would be in New York because we have everything set up in New York, right? We
Yeah.
have the architect that can that can help us with the permit. We have a fire suppression company. We have another company, an HVAC company that we work with that does the duct kit. And HVAC stands for heating, ventilation, and air conditioning. What else? We have the mechanical installation guy and we have the electrical installation guy. So we have everything covered in New York in order for us to ask those questions. Anywhere outside of New York, I leave it alone. I'm like, hey, good luck installing it.
You got a forklift? Good.
Yeah, you're good. You got a wrench. And of course, if they ask me, I'll guide them as much as I can without being able to lose the sale.
Right.
But that's like I said, I'll guide them as much as I can so I don't lose the sale, guys. That's a very important thing that I have to say when it comes to that.
Yep.
Very good. Very good.
Give information.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, gentlemen, I'm gonna step out. I really thank you for all the explanations, Ron. Thank you so
Sure.
much, Juan, ladies and gentlemen. I'll see you.
All right.
All right.
Thanks,
Yeah, I've got an appointment myself, actually, Juan.
Okay, no problem. Guys, stick around for a second. So if you have any other questions, I can answer for you. All right, Ron. Thank you very
Fun again,
much.
guys.
Thank you once again, Ron.
Weekend. Yep.
Ron, I appreciate it.
You bet. Thank
Appreciate the
you.
rundown. Bye.
Great hanging out with you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
All right, guys. So do you have any other questions that you want to ask me regarding spray booths? I know spray booths and paint booths are a little complicated, so feel free to ask any questions that you want.
So spray booth, paint booth is the same thing.
Same thing. This is
Okay.
Yeah, spraying boots and paint boots, same thing. Mm.
Ron,
Now,
I do have a
Juan.
question.
Oh, sorry, Laura. Go, Laura.
Oh, thanks. So it's not clear for me if it always has like a heating system I mean, is the air always, does it always have to be hot, or what? Like, how does
So
the
no, so of course, so basically, when you're painting the car, the air it's hot, but it's not crazy hot where it's gonna bother the paint guy, the painter, right? So it is a little warm in there was as he's painting, but once he's done with the painting, he leaves it. He leaves the booth, closes it, and of course that's when it pressurizes the booth, and he turns on the oven or the heating system, turning the booth into an oven.
Okay, yeah, but my question is, does every paint booth come with the heating system?
No. So the heating system is completely optional, right? You can buy the booth, buy just the booth alone, and then you don't have to buy the heating system, right? Which to me it's not smart, but of course the heating
That's
system
what.
is an extra $20,000. So sometimes it's a little difficult for somebody to just spend $40,000 in a booth. That's where they rather, okay, hey, I'm gonna make some money with the booth first, and then I'm gonna buy the optional heating system later on.
That's what you were saying about a car taking 3 hours to.
Yep,
To
yep, and
half an hour.
yep, some
Yeah,
people,
compared to the half an hour.
yeah, some people unfortunately don't have either the money or the credit, in order to get to buy the booth or
Hey,
finance
one,
the booth.
I'm
Yeah,
getting a call real quick.
go ahead, do you think? So so of course they start out with the booth alone and not the heating system, right?
I think also what happens is that it's also based on the area. If you get a hot area, California, Texas, Louisiana, these kinds of places, it tends to be hot already. I
Yeah,
think the main temperature inside the booth goes up to about 140 to 160 degrees. With that
with the
being
heating
said,
system, with the heating
with the
system.
heating system, right? If you take that into a hot building, then you're roughly looking at about 100 to 120 inside the booth once it closes. The way that I also understand it is that once the heating system is turned on, it also helps to create that enamel protection that is uh,
Yep.
that is like the base coat. It becomes a little bit stronger when it's that hot, but there's many customers I've had that just basically disregard it just because of the area that they live in. So
They do say that. Yeah, they're like, oh no, it's hot. It's like in Miami, for example, Florida. It's very hot in here. I don't need the heating system. But like Ed just said, like in order to get that better finish, they'll need that heating system, right? And of course, depending on the type of paint that you're using to paint the car, you'll need either the heating system or something called the waterborne system, right? So what waterborne is basically just as you're painting, they'll have extra reinforced air shooting out from the corners of the paint booth in order to give the paint a better finish. So it really all like it matters as to what kind of paint you're using um, for the car that you're painting. But to answer your question, Laura, no, you don't have to buy the heating system at first. You could just do without
Okay.
with the booth.
another thing
Right.
for the guys
Oh,
is that just want to make sure that you also know that it's on the page. Um, RGI has also been added to the website. RGI is a company based out of California that have very similar paint booths along with specs. Although this company RGI is American made, it does have the fire suppression system in it, but you're also looking at about, in my estimates, about an extra 5 to 10% cost once everything is already included. We're talking about the powder coating and such, because as Ron was explaining, some companies they put it in as packages. So if you look at a booth like this, that one has the additional powder coating, which is about $3,000. It has the power unit, which is about 1,500, and et cetera, and et cetera, right? Um, but it's also important to note that these, you can also find them in single ply and dual ply with the RGI.
Single skin
Obvious
and yeah, single skin and double skin.
single skin and double skin. The reason for the single skin and double skin is so that the heat would actually maintain itself in the space longer, and it would give more effect to the paint job. As opposed to single skin, it has a tendency of escaping a little bit more than what you would on a double ply. So in long term, you would be saving money by having a double skin if you were to bake you the vehicle on a more regular basis.
Correct. Yep. So that's what I didn't want to bring this up in front of Ron. And like I said, guys, like what Ron just gave us is basically the basic knowledge, right? Ideal only has single wall paint booths. Um, RGI has single wall, and you got, and and another day I'll explain to you what all these mean. But basically, and you have the double wall, right? And you have the option of getting the duct kit, powder coated, and the control systems, which you basically need in order for it to work. So just putting making a comparison between the Echo, which is the cross flow, with the duct kit and the controls, you're at a much higher price point than what Ideal sells it for. So just to go over really quick, guys, Echo means cross flow. Vector means side down draft, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, side down draft.
No, I think it's a semi down, then comes side down, then comes full down.
Yep. The
I
stealth is
got
the
the
full
notes
down.
somewhere around here.
Yep.
Mhm.
Yep. So, which I can explain another day, guys. I kind of just wanted you to learn about what the what a paint booth, how it works, so you guys have a general idea.
So the painting is actually done manually, right? Like by a person
Yes.
with a spray
Correct.
gun.
Yep. So, for example, if you look at this picture, right? All right. The painter with the paint gun, right? And this is the full down draft, and the airflow comes from here to the bottom, right? Side down draft. You can consider this dead area because there's no air being circulated here because the air comes from here and to the sides. And the semi down draft, there, this is the dead zone because the air comes from the top to the back. So there's no air circulating through here. And to be the most effective, a booth needs to have air circulated throughout the car at all times. So the painter paints the car. As soon as he's done, he leaves the booth, closes it, and turns on the oven.
Gotcha. Juan, have you ever had a question like let's say a customer, a potential customer that's like a newbie, like asking like a whole bunch of stuff about the paint booths?
Always, because most people
All
don't know.
day, every day.
Yeah, most people don't know what they're talking about when it comes to paint booths.
What's their most common questions? Like what we've already covered? Anything that you know?
The
maybe
most
we
common
haven't covered
question
that
would
they
be
ask?
like, "What's the cheapest booth you have?" That's the most common question because again, people don't know what they're talking about.
Exactly.
So whenever somebody asks me that, I already know from the beginning that they don't know what they're talking about. They don't know what they want.
So what do you at that point you would offer the?
So at that point, I would just offer the ideal one, unless he was in New York. And for example, like, all right, like one of the guys that I generated in New York, right, from the cold calls that I was making last year, he was like, yeah, I want the cheap one. So we went to the shop and we're like, because of permits, you're not allowed this booth, so we turned him into literally like a $15,000 client to a $50,000 client.
Wow.
Because we had to explain to him and educate him. But again, this is in New York where we have the whole system set up.
Right.
Anywhere outside of New York, I'm just like, dude, I'll tell you what you need as far as what I can sell you. Luckily, RGI, even though they're more disorganized when it comes to pricing and all that type of stuff, they do have some installers across the country. They do have the fire suppression. They do have systems in place, but it's just, I feel like RGI is a little harder to deal with than Ideal, because Ideal is basically everything is there. RGI, it's a little harder, and I can explain to you why, and another day, just because otherwise we'll be here for another 2 hours.
Well, Andres, I think something that I can add to answer your question is that the first couple of questions should be, what kind of vehicles are you planning to paint, and what is the space in your garage? From there, you can kind of narrow it down, because as Ron had mentioned, the crossflow, as cheap as it is probably not a good paint booth in order to do larger vehicles.
Yeah.
So then you focus first on the specs, make sure that the customer understands why this is important for him, and then go into price as to what the cheapest one would be for him, because you might end up losing a lot of time offering something that isn't, you'll spend a lot of time quoting and talking about
out
one.
of budget.
It's not even gonna work for him at that point.
Right. Got you. Makes sense.
Yep.
Now, Juan, I know we have like the whole system set up in New York, and you have certain company do this, and that. Are you thinking in the future probably have copycat like those same pattern companies in another state, or to
So,
sell more?
well, yeah. So this
Because I
basically
mean,
what
you
I'm.
have the structure already, and I don't know
So
if
yeah. So for example, right now that's the idea with what I have with working with Dan also, right? Because if we can generate more leads for my father in New York, we can potentially duplicate the system in a different state with a different person. You know, if obviously that person is knows what they're doing. You know, so for example, let's say in Florida, we actually have a strong potential guy in Florida. He kind of just disappears a lot, so I don't know how how
he
strong he is with
Reliable.
yeah,
disappears.
How's he
Brian.
been?
Reliable.
Brian?
You know,
How
yeah,
you been, by
Brian.
the way?
So for example, we have him as a potential salesperson in Florida. So if we were to generate a lot of leads for him, then we can start looking for a fire suppression system. You know, he actually installed booths. He can do the well. No, we would have to get an electrician to do the electrical installation, and we would have to get an architect to do the permits, right? Which is a whole bunch of just stuff combined. You know, so potentially in increasing the size of the company to different states with actual salespeople there.
Mm,
You know.
I'd
nice.
like to add to that. It's just I found it difficult in the times that I've been dealing with paint booths is that it's not as easy to find one installer for multiple booths. They're
Yeah.
very loyal to the company that they work with. So, for example, Don Juan probably doesn't mess around with another company. He just does the paint booths for that for AccuDraft.
Not
And
necessarily. My father will do different paint booths. Will help out to install different paint booths. Like for example, we done jobs for other companies where the other company completely botched up the job, and we come in there and we go install and we help out the client. As far as selling a different booth, that's a different story. Like my father doesn't really like selling. Well, he cannot sell anything outside of AccuDraft legally because by law, because we signed a contract in New York for to only sell AccuDraft. And that's why for a long time I couldn't put anything else on the website outside of AccuDraft because I was also in the contract. Like him being part of the company came with the website, but after like we saw that we weren't really generating any deals through the booth through the website, I sat down with the owner and told him that I wasn't gonna take it out, and he understood.
Gotcha.
I-
Cool, cool.
Yep, yep.
Somebody else have questions?
Anybody else have any questions?
No, not yet.
All right. All right, well, guys, let me know if you have any questions. I know Nika, Michelle, you guys been pretty quiet. Did you understand everything? If you didn't, please let me know.
I have an idea. I just there's a lot of information,
It is a
and
lot
of
of
course
information, yeah.
yeah, I'm gonna be going over all this again.
Okay.
So
Yeah, and like I said, whatever other questions you guys have after this, let me know. That way we can, we'll sit down and of course, like I said, it took me a very, very long time to understand what a paint booth is, how a paint booth works, how the airflow works,
The
and all that type of
accessories.
stuff. Yeah, like it's been like 3 or 4 years of actually, you know, doing a paint booth seminars and all that stuff,
Nice.
but now I finally understand how it works, what you needed to work and all that type of stuff.
We
So,
have ads running for that one. We like shop it out.
not yet, but I think we should, once we get our Facebook account back, we should start working on those,
For sure, for sure.
which Laura Mesa will help us out too, so she can understand it a little bit more.
Nice.
But yeah, but like I'm actually, yeah, if you guys have any questions, any other questions, guys?
No.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to stop the recording, guys, and I will be sending you guys this recording as well with the link of the recording. That way, you can take a look at it anytime you want. All right,
Thank you
guys.
so much, Juan.
Well, thank you very much, and I'll see you soon.